I'm good whenever. Smash the like button and subscribe.
Karate chop the like button and subscribe.
What to do, what to do. This is the Brothers on Books podcast, where we find great books that will give you real value and actionable steps and have fun in the process. Please reach out to us at brothersonbooks@gmail.com for any book recommendations, or if you would like to be a guest host for a particular book you have in mind. A great review or rating on whichever platform you're listening to would be greatly appreciated. Lastly, if you can think of any friend, family member, or coworker that might like this episode, please pass it along. For the original episodes, the OGs, please visit brothersonbooks.com. I'm Alex Olwell, and with me as always is my brother Jack Olwell. Jack, how you doing?
Doing quite well, Al. How are you?
Jack, how you doing?
Say that one more time, Al.
I'm also doing well. I think today we have a special guest. Jack, you want to tell the listeners who our special guest is?
We do. Today's guest is Elena Fitsilova, who happens to be my wife, born in the USSR, raised in the heart of Europe and Austria, multilingual, very smart, and once again, my great wife, and now is the author of 32 Lessons from a 10-Day Fasting Retreat, Unlock the Power to Self-Healing Through Prolonged Fasts, and Why You Should Fast 36 Hours Every Week. So Elena, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Al, for having me today.
Yeah, thanks for coming. So I believe, Jack, this you chose this book. I don't know by want or coercion.
Definitely want.
Okay. It was so what did you think? It was a good read. It was an easy read. What were your thoughts?
For my ever dwindling attention span, I'd say it was good with the chapters being so short. So I really like that. You could really just skip around if you wanted, and learned a lot. And I feel motivated to eat more nuts and veggies. What did you think?
I definitely, the chapters being so short definitely made it easier for me to read. Quick, good, easy stopping points. A lot of interesting tidbits. I have to say, I thought the bibliography was excellent.
You want to reveal why?
So for the listeners, I may or may not have helped Elena with her bibliography during Thanksgiving.
Very cool.
But no, I enjoyed it. There were a lot of interesting things. I guess I just have a good amount of questions for you after reading this.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of it's out of my, even though I guess I'm technically a scientist, a lot of this is very much outside of my wheelhouse. So yeah, it did feel like I learned a good amount. So it was enjoyable.
So,
Elena, just give us maybe some background as to what prompted you to write this.
Basically it was Jack who motivated me to write it, because when I arrived in the US a year ago and I couldn't work and I started the immigration process, I was already fasting for 36 hours once per week. So I would fast from like Sunday night until Tuesday morning. And when I was like meeting Jack's friends, and we would mention it, or I would be like, okay, I won't, like, if we meet up on Monday, I won't eat. People would have a lot of questions. So Jack told me, like, after a little while, like, Elena, why don't you just like write up everything? Because it seems like people are really interested to understand why you would fast for such a long period of time, and like what the deal was with your 10-day fast. So I used the time last year while I couldn't work and I was going through the immigration process to read up on the literature, look again into what Roman taught us on the 10-day fasts, and publish a book about it.
So Elena, I think most of our listeners are probably wondering who would pay money to go not eat for 10 days in a rural place in Austria. So why don't you tell the listeners how you discovered the fast and maybe walk us through a day in the life of someone at the fast.
Yeah, it's funny that you say, why would you pay to get starved? Because that was my first thought when I heard about it. And the way I heard about it is at my dad's bar. So my dad runs this bar in Vienna, and we have a lot of like regulars that come, and one of them lives above the bar. So he's like a regular that comes in every day. And like one summer, he tells me that he's about to go on this 10-day retreat where he's paying to not eat. And the way he described it at first to me was he was just getting teas and soups, and he's paying like, I don't know what he said back then, like $1,000 or something. And we're all like, oh my gosh, the guy's nuts. Like he's paying to get starved. And I laughed it off and couldn't take it seriously at first. But like, he kept talking about it, and he kept talking about how much weight he lost. And I got intrigued because at that point I was struggling with my weight. And I felt like even though I tried the hardest, I would like gradually over the years put on, like, let's say just a pound, but like it just accumulates over the years the older you get. And I couldn't see a way out of it. So I was like, okay, let's look into it. So I looked it up online. And of course, the lazy pig inside of me was like, let's just try to find something like for 5 days or like 4 days, like, a quick, easy fix to my weight issues. And I found a ton of places that offered it, and I couldn't decide. I was like, but why should I go for 10 days? Because Robert kept saying, Elena, you have to go for 10 days. It's just like how long it takes. Like he will explain it to you. That's what it is. And because I couldn't pick a place, I was like, F it, I'll give it a try. I'll go to this retreat. So I signed up and I went, and I had a really hard time, and I was suffering. And I remember calling you and like blaming almost you for like, why did you let me go on this? But retrospectively, felt great, and I'm happy I went. And I went the year after again, and it was much easier. And I went with a different mindset, because I think what messed me up at first was that even though I decided to commit for 10 days, I ended up having to commit for technically 24 days, because the refeeding phase is so important. And the refeeding phase is 14 days where you like gradually increase your calories. So I didn't know that though. And only once I was like in the classes listening to what Roman had to say, I realized, oh my gosh, I'm on the hook for another 2 weeks, because if I don't stick through the next 2 weeks, it was all in vain. Because apparently if you don't stick to like gradually increasing your calories and just drastically like go from like 0 to 100, you could put on all the weight back on plus more, because your body is just like in this like mode of like just storing everything it can get. So yeah, that was the start to it. And I guess you asked me how.
So I guess, well, when we had Dr. Jake Wish on, when he would refer to his fasting, he'd be like, no eating, no drinking a lot of times, or maybe just a water. So when you're talking about the fast that you went on, how about you describe what it actually meant?
Well, Roman is practicing a modified fast. So this means that you can consume between 200 and 500 calories per day. The thing is that you cannot chew. You're not supposed to chew anything, because the idea is that your digestive tract is supposed to rest. So you can drink, and you can consume purees and like vegetable broths and all that, but it shouldn't exceed like the 500 calories per day. And it also shouldn't be like any sugary drinks or like calorie-free drinks, because that actually makes a difference and has an impact too.
Yeah, can you maybe go into so yeah, sort of like what Jack said, Dr. Jaquish said literally no consumption of anything during his fast. So why is the 500 calories okay, and like what is the importance of the chewing?
The thing is, when you chew, it's already part of your digestive like system, because once you start chewing, your stomach starts producing it gets revved up to like prepare itself for digesting food. And the idea is that if you like shut it off, then you can regenerate your stomach. Basically, that's the way it was explained to me. And the reason why Roman practices a modified fast where you can eat, like consume up to 500 calories, is that he found that it was easier for people to go through with a fast. It wasn't like too extreme or too drastic for them.
So why don't you explain like what a day in the life is? Like when you get up in the morning, what's the first thing you guys do and how's the day go?
Okay, so it starts theoretically he has a program, like you're in this fasting institute in the middle of nowhere in the countryside of Austria, and you have to envision this like lovely bed and breakfast where everyone in the house is fasting. And the idea behind it is that you're not exposed to any delicious smelling foods or like just visual like cues of food that would make it harder if you were like, let's say in a institute where they offer both like fasting patients and like just like a spa retreat or whatever. So theoretically Roman has a agenda set out for the 10 days, but you're not obliged to do any of the program. You can also just like do your own thing. But if you want to participate in what he has to offer, the day would start at like, I think between 6 and 6:30 with something called Kneipen. It's like this idea of that you have two pools of water, and one is warm water and the other one is cold water, and you step into the water and just walk for a little bit. And you're supposed to end with the cold water because it helps with your circulation and with like making the skin firmer and refresh you. So that's the first part in the program. You can theoretically, when it's warm enough outside, he offers that the fasting participants can do it outside in the chemical-free pond that he has. Yeah, that's the first part. And then the second item on the agenda that he offers is some light exercise for like 30 minutes. So depending on what the focus of the fast is, it's either yoga or like the 7 asanas. It's like a different type of yoga, or just some like strength training. That is followed by a 5-kilometer walk. Like it's supposed to be a brisk walk, and you're supposed to finish it in, I want to say, 30 minutes would be, I want to say like in less than an hour. But the thing is, it's adapted to the group. So if the group is like fit enough, you can go faster. It's like a guided tour. Otherwise you adjust to the group. And then you get your breakfast theoretically. And the breakfast is this fasting drink that Roman created. It's like a thick beverage that has all of the like nutrients that you need and like protein and vitamins. And that is followed by a 2-hour seminar. And during that seminar, depending again on what the focus of the retreat is, like for example, the first retreat I went to was focused on nutrition. So Roman, or like whoever is leading the course, shares with you the latest science and knowledge on nutrition. So that went on for 2 hours, and then you have a resting period for about 2 hours. And people can choose if they just want to sleep or just sit or go for a walk. He offers these liver reps, which are supposed to help you with detoxifying the body, and massages. And then you get your lunch. Lunch is normally either a yogurt or some like puree, like fruit puree. Then you're on to a guided like hiking tour. That's also very pleasant because you have locals oftentimes that work at the Fasting Institute, so they know like all these like little hidden paths that you would normally like not be aware of. And then it's on to dinner already. It's almost dinner time, like at 6 o'clock. You get normally like a vegetable broth or like pureed vegetables. So that, and then in between, throughout the entire day, you have this supplement that Roman created that is basically like very rich in fiber. It's supposed to fill you up and help you with like going to the bathroom basically. And it has like more vitamins and nutrients and protein. and you have a ton of teas, like for different purposes. Like you have green tea to keep like your circulation up. You have relaxation teas, poison ivy tea, also just just to help you with the process of detoxifying.
Yeah. I mean, I just find it interesting because I feel like both, well, I guess one of the first questions I had, sort of going back to our previous episode with Dr. Jaquish, it seems like, you both you both talk about the benefits of fasting with just, and in diet as well, but just with some slight variations. I mean, I distinctly remember him saying that the body either operates well on a lot of food or on literally no food. So but he then sort of, I don't know, and Jay, I mean, you can sort of chime in with your thoughts on this, but I feel like he kind of almost said the corollary to what you're saying is that eating like some calories is okay. I feel like he said like eating some calories is just, it makes it a waste almost. And then I guess the other thing I was thinking is he also, it seems like promote, I mean, I guess I know you and I've eaten your cooking before. You don't, I mean, you do make some meats, but he promoted, I would say, almost an entire like meat diet. So I guess what would you say is like the ideal type of diet?
I was struggling with that a lot, like when I wrote the chapter on protein, because after you told me what you discussed with Jaquish, it did bother me that like the science is just so like it goes in opposite directions. But all the books that I read and the publications that I came across, I mean, they always say all these studies on like how animal protein impacts your diet are association studies. And it's like hard to pinpoint if it's really animal protein or if it's like the combination of what people eat. Like it was the case, for example, with when they thought for a little while that caffeine is bad for, like coffee is bad for you, because the people that they observed were coffee drinkers and smokers. So once they eradicated the smokers out of the statistic, like caffeine all of a sudden fared well. So the studies that I came across made a very strong point for like not eating meat or like reducing it significantly. There were actually even two different resources that said once you're not a growing adult animal, like once you're over like your puberty or whatever, like when your body is growing and you're supposed to like eat a lot of protein, it's not good to eat a lot of animal protein. It showed in studies that it promotes diseases. But then again, after I think the age of 65 again, it's supposed to be better for you. Like I'm kind of torn, but because of what I read and the scientific papers I came across, I'm trying not to eat that much animal protein, even if it's just like for like reducing potential cholesterol, because that's just something that is preservant in animal protein. You don't have that issue if you just stick to plant protein.
I mean, you're not the only one. Like, I'm not trying to, attack you here. I mean, obviously, from a personal standpoint, I know way more people that say, eating vegan or vegetarian diets are way healthier. And even from my own personal experience, I would say, and I guess Jack, you can chime in on this as well. But when I was a vegetarian, I feel like I physically felt the best. And when I would play soccer, I felt like I almost never got tired. And that was sort of also echoed by the girl that got me into it, who was my ex-girlfriend, who was a raw vegan. She just said she progressively cut out meat and animal products, and she just progressively felt better. But then on the same note, you have people like Joe Rogan, and I think Jordan Peterson's daughter almost try to exclusively eat meat, and they say they feel great, which is why I'm always very confused about nutrition science, because it seems like it's just so person dependent almost.
I mean, I just noticed because I love meat, and I mean, I still occasionally will eat it, but when I was eating a ton of meat, I always felt like overly acidic. And I don't know if you can relate to it. And Jack like asked me the other day, but what do you mean by it? And it's so hard to explain, because like once I didn't eat that much meat. I just felt better, but I felt like over acidic all of the time. I just couldn't pinpoint what it was. So I felt like reducing my animal protein intake helped me with that. Like I just feel more balanced when I eat more vegetables and more fruit.
Can you explain the ratios of the veggies, fruits, and like legumes?
Yeah, so like Roman had this like rule of what he suggested we should aim for in a day, and he said 600 grams of vegetables, 300 preferably growing above ground, 300 growing below ground, 400 grams of fruits, 100 grams of like a red peel, a green peel, yellow peel, and what was the purple one, and then 100 grams of legumes. And the thing is, I mean, because it's not really in my culture to eat legumes, it was tough for me to incorporate initially, but like just by trying to eat 600 grams of vegetables, it was so hard to eat that amount of veggies, because if you like, I was weighing everything, and just the amount of time it took me to chew up my salad, or like to chew up a spinach leaf or a carrot, versus like what I was doing before is just like swallowing rice, or like, you know, easy carbs that don't take a lot of chewing really. So I just feel like by incorporating that, I had the chance to feel full all the time, like not being hungry and still like maintaining my weight, and sometimes even like losing weight. And at some point, because I thought all along, you know, these pyramids that you see as kids where they say one part should be a carb, like they say bread or rice or pasta, one part protein and one part veggies. I realized that veggies are basically carbs, and I didn't really need an additional source of carbohydrates. Or if you like add legumes, they're protein and carbs. So that way I could basically eradicate the simple carbohydrates that I was eating before.
Very cool.
Maybe like, what's the difference between, like you were saying, like different colors of skins? So like what different types of skins, and like what do some skins give you that the other skins don't?
I didn't look into that per se. The only thing he mentioned in that regard that was also like a huge eye opener to me was that you're supposed to eat the fruit and veggies with its peel and the seed, kernel, or pit. Just because it contains fiber and fat that helps you absorb the nutrients. So for instance, buy the grapes with the seeds, buy the watermelon with the seeds. He says, in the case of a watermelon, for instance, where you can't eat the outside, there is like this white lining that is full of cellulose apparently that fills you up. So eat that. Or in the case of a banana where you can't, like there is no seed, he would say to eat 3 almond-sized nuts with it. So the idea is like if you have 3 almonds, you eat 3 pieces of almonds with your fruit that don't have a pit on its own. If you eat Brazil nuts, for example, because they're so huge, it would be like the equivalent to 2 Brazil nuts, and so forth and so on. And it was like confirmed in the books that I read and the research that it really is better for you if you eat the fruit and the vegetable intact, like just the way they're growing.
How about touching on why go on the 10-day fast instead of like a 2 or 5-day fast?
Right. So what came to light is that basically after, like, what can happen is when you detoxify, and it's maybe not the case with like you and me because we don't drink alcohol and we don't take a lot of medication, but like if you have a lot of toxins in your body and you take a lot of meds, is that while you're going through the fast, that up until day 9, some of the toxins are stored in your lymphatic system, and that only after day 9 there are like going out of your system. And like what they say is so important during a fast is also that you continue with light exercise, like light movements, like walking, so that your body's like has a chance to get rid of the toxins that might be building up. And also like it's a good idea to get massages actually, and the liver reps if you want to help your body. And it also has something to do with the set point that Dr. Jason Fung explained in his book, The Obesity Code. That is the idea that there are like homeostatic mechanisms in place, and your body adjusts. And the only way that your body can adjust is if you manage to, like, the way to like lower your set point, which is basically the point at which your metabolism is set at, is if you have no insulin secretion. So that's like actually another criteria of what makes a fast is that you don't raise your insulin levels for like 10 consecutive days. And then with like the refeeding phase, it takes 2 weeks, you like slowly build up again, and then hopefully you're able to settle at a lower set point. And then Roman always says after the fast, the goal should be to just maintain your weight. He says, don't try to lose more weight. You might naturally lose more weight, because if you start incorporating like a ton of veggies and salads and you like cut out the other crap, you might lose more weight, but like don't try to reduce calories, because it's so fatal to your metabolism. You will just like slow down your metabolism, and then when you try to like eat again like you would normally, you would just put on the weight. So he says that ideally you should try to fast every 6 months, because after 6 months your body will try to creep up to the weight that it had before.
So how much weight did you actually lose on your fast?
I think I lost about 5.5 kilograms each time. And for men it's more, because like your base caloric usage is higher. And like also if you have more muscles or if you're more active, you would lose more. And subsequently, if you move less and you're like smaller, it will be less.
And then over the 6 months, would you say you put some of that back on, or how did that go?
I think I did, because I must say I felt faint at my lowest weight after I left there. So I did put some weight on, but like my eating habits just changed drastically to the better. Like I had so much more of an awareness for what I was eating and what I should aim for, because before I was kind of aimless and lost. And I just thought I'm doing like the right thing, but I had actually no clue. So for me, it was a success, I thought.
Can you maybe go over, you talk in the back half of the book, you talk a lot about the microbiome and the difference between like good and bad bacteria, and how that can affect sort of your almost disposition. Can you maybe go into that a little bit?
So one of the things that Roman mentioned was that your immunity lies in your gut and in the gut bacteria. And to me, this was kind of shocking to hear, and I didn't understand it at first. So I read like this book on gut bacteria by actually a German author. And it basically explains that, like, you know, the saying, you become what you eat. It explains on a biological level what happens with you and how bacteria can influence your behavior and your cravings through what you eat. Because depending on what you eat, your bacteria like sets itself more or less. Like, for example, if you never eat legumes, people tend to be bloated after they eat it. If you eat them regularly, your gut bacteria adjusts to it, and you like it's easier for you to digest these types of foods without experiencing discomfort. So one of the things that I found shocking to learn was that your gut bacteria has there is like this vagus nerve that connects your gut brain with your brain. And normally, if something happens in your gut, your vagus nerve will not transmit everything to your brain, only like what is relevant to it. For example, if you eat something bad, it will transmit something to your brain that something is like wrong with what you ate. So what they found out was that apparently bacteria have the ability to create neurotransmitters that can cross this barrier to the brain and influence what you want, like what you want to eat and what you crave. And an even more prominent example was a prison a prison in California, where they introduced they asked prisoners if they wanted to volunteer for a program where they would be fed a vegan diet in combination, I think, with some like religious part and some sort of mentoring. And the people that volunteered were put in a separate tract in the prison. And the program was so successful because the prisoners were like less likely to be involved, like they didn't have gang affiliations, while the ones that like just continued to eat like the fast food that they were given had like big troubles, like a lot of aggression, like gang affiliations. They had a very bad what do you call when they become like they
I forgot the term.
like they become criminals again, like once they get out they commit a crime again and end up in prison again.
Incarcerated.
Say that again.
They get reincarcerated.
Yes. So what they found is that the people that ate the vegan diet and had like this religious program and the mentoring going on were way. Sorry, come again. Okay. So basically the people that stuck to the vegan diet had less of a chance and likelihood to get back into prison once they were released. So the implication is that diet has an impact also on your behavior.
Yeah, I guess the thing I now think back to is, Jack, do you remember I think it was The Violinist's Thumb, when they talked about the bacteria that made the mice like attracted to cat urine? So
Yeah.
we just almost, I guess that's when I hear bacteria affecting, sort of disposition and actions, that's what I now always think to. And kind of wonder what, how do they affect my everyday decisions in life? So it's very interesting.
It definitely has an impact on your mental health.
I mean, even the metabolism, this would sort of, the metabolism of drugs can be drastically different between different individuals because of the bacteria found in their microbiomes. In many regards, it's incredible that drugs are ever made sort of for that reason, just because the microbiomes are all so different. Yeah, very interesting.
I mean, I could tell that when I was transitioning from like eating a lot of meat and simple carbs to eating a ton of salad, that my digestion was overloaded with it. Like it was too much. I constantly felt bloated. I didn't feel good, but I realized that if I had just paced it out, if I had like gradually increased it over a longer period of time, it would have been easier on me. But I just started to take probiotic pills, and I must say that helped me a lot too.
I guess the real last talking point I had of the book was the hydrogen peroxide.
I know how you feel about that. Are we really gonna discuss it again?
I mean, I feel like I just, I can't help myself. I gotta bring it up. So what do you do with hydrogen? Why don't you tell everyone what you do with hydrogen peroxide?
So what I do with hydrogen peroxide is I take it when I'm sick. At this point, when I have a cold or a flu, or when I had corona, I take hydrogen peroxide. So the way that Roman tells you to take it is to do a cure once a year, where you, like, initially you're supposed to start off with 1 drop in a cup of water 3 times a day, and then you increase it to 2 drops 3 times a day, up until you reach 10 drops a day, 3 times, like 10 drops in one go 3 times a day. And then you start was it 30 days? Because I haven't done it in a while. Wait, how long do you take it? Day 1. For 2 months. Okay, so you take for 2 months 10 drops a day, 3 times per day. And it's supposed to, like, the way Roman uses it is to lower his genetically high cholesterol. And he claims it helps, and like a lot of the people that fast in the institute claim they're taking it and they're fine. And then he says, like, if you're hit with a disease, like if a cold or a flu, you can take 20 drops 3 times a day for the duration of the symptoms. But once the symptoms subside, you should immediately stop taking it. But he also warned, for example, his wife, when she tried to take 20 drops 3 times a day, her skin became really dry. So she, for example, had to adjust it to 15 drops. So he's also saying, like, make sure that you listen to your body. And what he's using in Austria is a 3% solution. And apparently in Austria and in Germany, it is safe to use the 3% solution from like the pharmacy. But the books that I read that were written in the US say to use which one was it? Which one do they use in the US though? They don't use the 3% solution because it's not pure enough. They add chloride. They use 35% food grade H2O2. And then you have to dilute that to 3%, and then you take 3 drops per day, and you increase it every day by like 1 drop until you reach 25 drops, and then you go and reduce it back to like, I think 3 drops, so that you in total take it for 45 days. And the way it is explained in the books is that
Yeah, I just disagree with it, but
you just what?
I still disagree with it, but to each their own.
I mean, the thing is, unfortunately, there are no major studies. So I was also struggling to find something more substantial, and all I could find were like, I think I read 3 different books. One was in German and I think 2 in English. And they're all going back to like the same people that were using it. I mean, no, even though the one in German focused more like around doctors in Germany that use that cure, there are unfortunately no larger scale studies. So all I can go off is like what Roman is doing, what he's telling his fasting patients, and they seem to have, like, he only reports good outcomes of it. He's using it on himself. He said he goes to a blood test. He has, like, the first time he takes the blood test, he has ridiculously high cholesterol. He comes back 2 months later, and it's like in a somewhat normal range for him. So I think everyone has just to decide for themselves if they want to try it, like preferably school medicine
I guess we should say there was a disclaimer on this chapter.
There were 2 disclaimers in the book. And the second one was before I talked about the hydrogen peroxide, because I want really people to like be very careful also with using 35% food grade,
Yeah.
because it's like, as like it burns your
It's like
skin. Like,
dangerous.
it is dangerous. Yeah.
And you brought
Like
up
when
that
I'm-
it shouldn't be tap water. You need to use distilled
yeah,
water.
you need to use, yeah, exactly, because the tap water in the US has like chloride in it. And I'm using it with like my rubber gloves. I'm not even touching it because it once like barely scratched my skin and my skin got like super dry. But yeah, you dilute it and then
I mean, I guess my first question is, if what you're about to put in your body, you're so worried about it touching you, you're handling with rubber gloves, like, doesn't that maybe say something?
I also didn't understand it at first, but then I read about this enzyme that humans apparently have, or like every organism that operates on oxygen, that needs oxygen to live, and that is catalase. I don't know how to pronounce it in English, but it's basically this enzyme
Catalase?
that breaks down the hydrogen peroxide into like water and oxygen.
Right.
And it basically enriches apparently your body with oxygen, and that helps you to heal. And they have like these hyperbaric machines that do the same thing, just differently. So there is something apparently about like having a lot of oxygen in your body helps you to heal.
So, I mean, it's my understanding that where that is correct, most of the peroxides in your body are very tightly regulated in specific, organisms in the cells, such that they can't just run rampant in your body because they are dangerous. I mean, but on the same note, like, obviously something of what you're saying, because eating honey is kind of like an old wives' tale medicine, in that if you're sick, you should eat honey because honey has a lot of peroxides, and they will in fact kill, pretty much anything.
Yeah, I mean, they say that breast milk has hydrogen peroxide in it. They say that coffee, if you let it, like, apparently cold brew has hydrogen peroxide in it in small amounts.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure a lot of things have them in very small amounts.
And that's what you're administrating ideally, like very tiny amounts. I mean, they say you can even take baths with it. It's supposed to relax you. I wanted to do that. I haven't come around.
Who's taking a bath in hydrogen peroxide?
It's described in one of these books that I read.
But diluted, right?
Yeah. You don't bathe in 35% food grade.
Okay.
That's why there's a disclaimer on that chapter. Like, really, you have to read everything.
So, okay, so yeah, what were your big takeaways from this book? What are you taking away? What are you going to change in your life from reading this, after reading this?
I mean, what am I going to change? I'll probably try and focus on my diet more and eat more of the, my diet's been pretty bad lately, I have to say. So probably try and eat a more well-balanced meal of fruits, vegetables, grains, nuts, and legumes. I'm going to continue to abstain from using hydrogen peroxide, though. But the fasting, I tried I think it was last summer. I still, for the intermittent fasting, I still do the 16-8. So I still eat dinner, and then I don't eat again till lunch. So I usually eat dinner around 7 to 8, and then I eat lunch around probably 11 or 12. I could see trying to incorporate the 36-hour, like, Sunday night dinner and then Tuesday morning breakfast once a week. That I haven't really decided on yet. Yeah. That's about it. Jack, how about you?
I'm definitely going to try to focus on eating more legumes and veggies. I have been doing the 36-hour fast with Elena probably, well, we kind of all alternate days sometimes, but I've probably been averaging like once a month for a while. I do find myself getting hangry about 24 hours after, I'd say. But I'll try to keep it up. It is kind of hard when you're working. I think it's probably helpful if you have time off work. I do like, she brought up like this 5-to-1 ratio of carbs to fiber. I kind of like, so I'll look at boxes to see what foods match that ratio and try to keep that ratio under 5. And yeah. What about you, Elena? What do you want the audience to take away?
Ooh, I don't know. I could just recommend to anyone to try an extended fast, like ideally under medical supervision. I would not recommend to do it just completely on your own. And just, I think, really just try to eat 600 grams of veggies, 400 grams of fruit, and 100 grams of legumes, and see how you feel. I feel like it made such a major difference for me.
And I guess closing out, Elena, where can people go to find the book?
Oh, you can find it on Amazon if you just put in my name or 32 lessons from a 10-day fasting retreat.
Very cool. And I guess with that, please reach out to us at brothersonbooks@gmail.com for any book recommendations, or if you'd like to be a guest host for a particular book you have in mind. A great review or rating on whichever platform you're listening to this would be greatly appreciated. And lastly, if you can think of any friend, family member, or coworker that might like this episode, please pass it along. Once again, I'm Jack Allweil, and with me, as always, is Alex Allweil. Al, it's been a great episode.
It's been a pleasure.
Elena, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
And I think, so what do we have on the radar? I think I'm next with the solo mission after this episode. I think I'm going to do Compound Effect, but haven't totally decided. And then after that, what do we have? I think we have
Breath into Air.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. Okay. Guess signing off.
It's been fun.
Yep. Take care.